You're a busy person and you don't have time to learn a language, but you'd love to learn your target language. This is one of the most common problems for many language learners. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a few things you can do to integrate language learning into your lifestyle, given that you're a busy person and you don't currently have the time. So I'm James, I'm a native English speaker. Puedo hablar español y aquí puedo hablar italiano. I help people reach their language goals. First of all, you're thinking of language learning the wrong way. So back at school, or if you did a language course or something in the past, you might have had to sit down for an hour or two or a few hours per week and study your target language using grammar rules and looking at the many ways you can say the in Spanish or Italian and whatever your target language is. However, that's not fun. That's quite boring for many people, including myself. But when we look at what we want to do in our routine or in our weekly or monthly routine, we do things that are more fun. And anything that's not fun or that's boring, we put it off. We postpone it inevitably, or we just cancel it and don't do it. And that might be happening to yourself. And if that's happening for you, understand that it's not your fault. It's just that you don't find a thing interesting. But you can reframe that. Instead of thinking of language learning as something like homework or something boring, or having to remember a load of grammar tables, you can change how you perceive language learning to be. So if you think of it as more fun, that will increase the priority of language learning in your lifestyle. And it also means that instead of watching Netflix or doing this more exciting thing, you can stop and think, wait a minute, if I watch Netflix in Spanish, like my target language, then that can also be fun. It doesn't have to be me staring at a piece of paper with a load of grammar rules written on it. So that's the first thing. Reframe your way of thinking of language learning, because there's so many other ways of thinking of it in a more fun way, and that will increase the chance that you'll actually get round to doing it. Some things can be listening to a podcast you're interested in, say you're interested in badminton or some sort of sport. If you search on Spotify or even YouTube podcast in Spanish about this topic, then you'll find it and it'll be completely in your target language. Also, what you can do is watch TV shows and movies in your target language. A quick note on this, if you're very early on, so you can't really understand much of your target language, then have the subtitles in English so you can actually understand what's going on. Then obviously you can hear what's going on and you can see the context of it, and you can learn the language that way because you're still surrounding yourself with the context of what's going on, even if the subtitles are in English. So that's the first point. Make sure that what you're doing is fun, basically, because otherwise you'll postpone it and you'll think of language learning as this boring thing that never gets done. And if you try and do what you normally do as part of your current routine, say you're chilling and watching Netflix, watch it in your target language instead. And that's one thing you can do. Actually, on that topic, so many people struggle to do this that I'm creating a book for language learners. So I'm actually writing a book now based on my 12 years of experience learning Spanish and Italian on how to learn a language if you're a busy person. And the principles apply to any language. It's like a set of tools and techniques that you can use and apply to any language to start to learn language from scratch, given that you're a busy person. And that's what it's for. So if you're interested and you want to be kept in the loop as to what's happening with my book and when it's going to be released, then I'll put a link in the description below so you can have a look. The next point is that if you have a big chunk of time, you're not likely to actually do it. So it's a lot easier to do a language learning activity in, say, 20 or 25 minutes. There's a few reasons behind this. The first one is it's easy to fit that much time into your calendar, assuming you're a busy person, than a 1 hour or 2 hour block that you're just going to think, no, I've not got time for that. That's a massive amount of time. Let's just not do it. Whereas if it's 20 minutes or 25 minutes of listening to a podcast or watching a bit of Netflix or watching an episode on Netflix, that is a lot more manageable in your diary. And plus, as well, a lot of people don't have an attention span more than 20 or 25 minutes as a human. So having more than this, you'll just zone out and you won't be able to focus on what you're doing. So really, short bits of study time outweigh longer chunks of time to study because you're more focused on that shorter period of time, so you get more done per time period, essentially. I think even if people are like obsessed with a topic, it's still, you zone out after that amount of time. Anyway, it's hard to focus on something unless you're even on caffeine like Red Bull or something. It's hard to focus for a long period of time. So just don't fight against your brain, just work with it and just do a few chunks of 20 minutes per week rather than doing one lot of 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon, for example. Okay, so the next point is do language learning activities while you're doing other things in your current routine. So there's two ways of doing this. So one is stopping what you're doing in your current routine and marking a block of time of 20 minutes in your calendar to do language learning or whatever activity you like to do with language learning. The alternative is while you're doing something in your current routine. So for example, I might be driving to work. It might take me half an hour. But while I'm driving, rather than listening to the radio, for example, or music, I'll then put on an Italian or Spanish podcast and just listen to that. Now, the important thing is you might feel like you have to understand every word that's being said to actually learn it and understand it. But realistically, it can be background music. Imagine if you're living in the country, you'd hear music and you'd hear the radio of that country, of the language all the time. So that's passively listening, and your brain is still wants to understand patterns. Your brain naturally wants to understand what's going on. So it will subconsciously try and work out what's being said as the day goes on and as you progress. So over time, you might not think it's making a difference, but it is. And you'll notice that because you'll understand and pick up more bits of what's being said while you're sort of driving, commuting to work, or you're at the bus station, or you're on the bus, sort of zoned out daydreaming with a Spanish podcast or whatever it is, whatever your target language is, in the background. And your mind is really clever in that sense, in that that's the laziest way to learn a language, by learning it passively, because you can still learn it, but you're not putting any active effort into thinking about what it means, basically. So that is it for today. See you later.